Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Performance Cafe. It's lovely to have you here. And as we're heading into February, things are hotting up. I think the holidays are a bit of a distant memory, if you know what I mean. And so it's a great time for me to introduce the following concept, and that is around goal setting and maintaining goals. You see, it's so typical, don't we all do it? December rolls around, we go, I'm overworked, I'm underloved, underappreciated, I'm going to do it better next year, I'm going to exercise more, eat less, and do a whole plethora of things that we sometimes just don't get to. And I think that's the thing about New Year's resolutions, right? Most people sort of go like, they're just going to drop it halfway through. We'll see as the numbers dwindle in the gym, actually. So I was thinking that today I'd like to talk about goal setting from a perspective of wanting to do those things and making the same decisions every December, and then starting off January and going strong, and then potentially by February, March, feeling, okay, I'm going to drop off now because, you know, the year's gotten back into swing. Things are in motion, and I don't have that much time to spend on myself. And I was thinking it's so sad because so often we wash, rinse, repeat these resolutions. What if we actually stuck to them and actually improved our existence because of it? So at the end of last year, for those of you who were watching, thank you to you. We spoke about reflecting on the year that was, about reflecting to appreciate what you had and what you did, and then also reflecting to learn from and to grow from what didn't go well and what didn't end well for you with the year. And the whole idea with this is just to make sure that we set ourselves up for success for the next year. So if we take a look at what we were thinking about when we were working through these reflections, and maybe you haven't seen that video, but most of us, when we go on holiday, we have a bit of that, that moment of reflection, especially here closer to New Year's Eve. And I want to ask you a couple of questions to see, what did you learn from last year? And how's it going to impact your 2023? So the first thing I want to ask you is, did you manage to action any of the learnings that you thought of in your reflection? Did you take any of those steps? Did you take one? Did you take many? You just appreciate the fact that you've made that first step. And if you haven't, it's never too late to start. Next up, what was the impact? If you did take those steps, what was the impact? Did it turn out the way you expected? Did you manage to build in a short time what you expected? If you didn't take the steps, what was the impact? And from that perspective, what are you losing by not taking those steps, right? I often think of it as, like 1% improvement. The compound improvement works the other way as well. Each day or each month that we don't take that step, what are we losing? What's the cost of not doing it? Then next, what is there that you can build on? Maybe you've started taking the steps and maybe it didn't go well or it didn't work as planned. How can you build on that? How can you improve on that? And then lastly, how are you going to take it from here, right? So you've started, but now what? So if you're thinking through these and you've got a couple of rough ideas, I want to ask you, do you have a plan of how you're going to do that? They say a goal without a plan is just a dream. And I'm all about dreams, but at some point in time, we have to realize them. The other thing I want to ask you is, if you haven't started, what can you start immediately? What are those first few steps that you actually can take? Because you see, I think that there are a couple of things that I'd like to talk to you about today on how do we make sure that we keep those goals alive, and that as the year gains momentum, that we continue to work on those goals. You see, even if we only get 30 or 40% better at these things, it means that next year we've got a shorter path to completing the goal. So the first thing I'd like to speak to you about is, do you understand your goal? So here's the typical thing. I want to become fitter. I want to learn to fly an aeroplane. I want to learn how to be better at customer service. That's kind of more a dream than a goal because it's just not defined enough. The easy way of thinking about this is to say, what does success look like to you? What must the plane size be? What kind of plane must it be? Which school do you want to attend? How much time do you want to spend on this? How much money do you want to spend on this? Who's supporting you in this? The other way of doing it is just saying, is it a SMART goal? Is it specific, measurable, achievable, realistic? And do I have a time frame for it? Is it time bound? You see, what often happens is we go, I want to make this change, but the change is so vague that we never really know what success looks like. So if you're thinking about your goal and you close your eyes, you can see yourself standing next to the plane holding your certificate, right? That's how specific we want to do. I want a picture in your head of what it is that you want to achieve and what success looks like. Because when you've got that certificate, you know you've done your hours, you've done all the theory, you've done all the practical, you got there. So the first thing is to understand the goal and understand what is the very defined endpoint. Where am I starting? Where am I ending? The second thing is to plan the goal, to actually understand what are the steps that I need to take in order to get to it. What I want you to do is to have a plan so that you can schedule time in your diary to work towards your goal. So it's not a kind of thing of, oh, I didn't get to it next week. This week I'll get to it next week. It's no, I know every Wednesday afternoon for 2 hours, I'm spending time on this goal. Because you see then, as you get to those weekly timeframes, you know how much you have to move on in order to get to where you need to be. And that brings me to point 3. Use milestones to ensure that you're clear not only on the steps, but on your progress. So again, I want to go and study something. Yeah, that's really great. But what are the details and what are things like, for example, you know, when do the registrations open to study this thing? When does school start? How many, you know, by when do you have to start handing in assignments? What group work is there? Schedule all of that so that you know as you're going through this process, each milestone that you tick off is progress towards your goal. What I really love about milestones is that sometimes things happen and we slip up and we cannot complete something. But we always can see how many milestones we did check. And if we did those properly, then we can just carry on going from there. Where if I sort of start and then I sort of stop and I can't remember where I was, then next time I have to start from scratch. That's demoralizing. It makes us feel like a failure. And it means we're really just not going to get anything done. Then accountability. Hold yourself accountable. Set up regular check-ins, whether it is weekly or bi-monthly, to measure progress. That way, you know where you stand. You have a firm idea of how far down the road you are to achieving this goal. Every time that you set up these check-ins and you measure your progress, not only does it help you understand where you are on the process, but every time that you can tick off 1 or 2 or 3 things that you've done in that week or in those 2 weeks in order to move towards your goal, you get a shot of dopamine. And dopamine is great for motivation. So that makes you more likely to have the necessary motivation for the next week's work and the next week's work. So you see, even your biochemistry is going to love you for doing this. Then number 5, when things start slipping, as they inevitably do, because we are all just human and life happens, I want you to get focused on where there's a lack of progress and understand 3 things. What is the lack of progress? Why is it there? And how can I fix it? And this is not a process of, oh, I'm just not clever enough, fast enough, I don't know, motivated enough. No, it's not a dumping session. It's around, why is this thing so difficult for me to do that I battle this much? So what is that thing? Why is it difficult for me? How else can I do it? Do I outsource it and give it to someone else to do? Do I make sure that I do it first thing in the morning when I'm bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and I have the energy to do these things? Or whatever the case may be, find the solution. Worry less about how you landed up there and actually find a solution that's going to make it easier for you to do. As you know, I'm a strengths coach, and because I'm a Gallup coach, we always focus on what strengths can I use to help get me over this. And then sixth on my list is evaluate whether the goal is still relevant. If you find that the goal keeps on slipping, ask yourself, is this goal really important enough? Because normally we don't let important things just fall by the wayside. Are the factors still the same? Is the return on investment, is the return on investment still valid? Am I still working in the same circles, in the same industry, in the same department? Whatever the case may be, am I still in the same community that this is important to me? If the goal isn't relevant, let it go and find one that is, because your time is too valuable to sit and churn through something that really is not going to add the value that you were hoping that it would. And so I would like to ask you to keep doing this. Go through the 6-point process with all of your goals. Understand them, plan them, make plans for them, and schedule them into your calendar. Make sure to use those milestones and always celebrate the milestones when you've got those check-ins so that you make sure you get that dopamine hit. Get focused on where the lack of progress is and try and solve that, and then constantly review, is this goal or this version of the goal still relevant? So you can do this on your main goals. You can do this on all your goals. You can maybe take your team or your community, people in your community through this if you happen to like coaching or mentoring others. It's a great way to establish this good pattern around goals that we keep on sustaining it so that they don't fall by the wayside. And that September, October, we can still be taking a look at how far we are in measuring ourselves against those goals, and hopefully quite a lot has been done. And from my side, that is all that I have for you this week around this goal setting and maintaining and sustainable goals. I hope you've learned a lot from it. I hope that you found something very valuable that you can use or provide to others to use. Please remember that this video goes up on all of our social media networks. And then, of course, the matching blog will go up on the Perform Forward website, which is performforward.com. You can also find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and a couple of other social media platforms. Also, if you've got any questions or concerns or topics that you'd like me to discuss, please feel free to drop me a comment on your favorite social media platform, and I will get back to you on that. And then for this week, that's it. I'm back to my cup of coffee, and I look forward to seeing you at the next Performance Cafe. Goodbye.